Thank you for joining me on my learning journey. Today I'm going to be sharing my learnings on how to make a quiz game in JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. So as you can see, you have a timer here and certain questions that you have to select the answers to. And then when you click submit, you will get your score. So I'm going to be showing you how to create this. So what we're going to do first is we're going to create a form, and then we are going to create a div for our question. And what we are going to say is, or we're going to create a paragraph div, and we're going to say class equals question. And inside of that, we are going to create a paragraph text that'll say our question. So let's just say we want to say question 1, I'm coming up with something, x squared plus 3 equals 7, and x is positive. What is x? So here we're going to say input, and we're going to assign it a name called 1 input. We're going to say the type is a radio button, and the ID is 1A because it is question number 1, answer choice A. And so our value here, we're going to also assign it a value of 1A, and we're going to make a label for that. So we're going to say label for 1A is going to be 2. So I don't want to have to type all these things again, so I'm just going to go like this and change the values that I need to change. And I'm going to make this choice -2. The next one we're going to do 1C. I'm going to do A, B, C, D for all of them. And again, how many answer choices and what questions and what answer choices is completely up to you for how you make this quiz game. I'm going to do another one, 1D, 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 and I'm going to make this 3. Okay, so let's make another, let's make another one of these, but this is going to be question 2. And I'm going to put another question here. Let's just say, when did the Revolutionary War in America against British rule begin? And so instead of 1 input, I'm going to change it to 2. And the reason why we're assigning this name is because afterwards what we are going to do is we're going to have to pull which one of these was selected and what its value was in order to be able to tell if they got the question correct or not. So that's why we're adding that. Okay, so what I'm going to do next here is create our submit button. And so you might think of putting the button inside of the form. But the reason why that's not going to work is because when we're actually trying this out, if you put it inside the form, it is actually going to cause the page to refresh. And we don't want that to happen for the particular logic that we are going to use. So we're going to put it outside of the form, and its ID is going to be submit. And there we go, and it's going to say submit. And so let's add some JavaScript. And so in our JavaScript, what we are going to say is we're, of course, first going to add an event listener for our button. So for submit, add event listener. For the click, and on click, what we're going to do is first we're going to just define correct to be 0. And what we're going to do is each time they get a correct answer, we're going to add 1 to correct. And then we're going to divide the number that they got correct by the total number of questions. So we're going to say if document dot query selector, and we are going to again pull what radio button was clicked. Name equals input one input, checked dot value is equal to 1A. Then we are going to add 1 to correct. And so we're going to do the same thing with questions 3 and 2, of course just changing the corresponding values, right? So for input 2, which one is the correct answer? It looks like C on at least my project. It might look different on yours if you chose different questions, of course. And then for number 3, it is B. So there we go. But are we done yet? No, we are not, because now we have to actually find the score, right? Now we just have the amount that's correct. Let's find what their score was. So what we're going to do next is we're going to say let score equal correct by 3 times 100. And so that's how we get the percentage. And then we're going to say document.getElementById by ID score dot inner HTML is equal to your score is, we're going to add math.round score plus the percent symbol. So simple enough. And that is how we are going to display that. So let's go ahead and test out our code. So here we are, and we are going to try out our code. So I'm going to enter these answers, and as we can see, we got our score. Our score is 67%. So I'm going to try again and see if I can bring up that score, and I did. But this is a little too easy, because if you give your user all the time in the world, they could even go back and watch the Finding Nemo movie to see if they can find the joke where they talk about what type of fish Nemo is, or his dad is. Anyway, off topic. So the point is, this is a little too easy, so let's add something that'll make it a little bit more fun and more challenging. Something that's guaranteed to pressure your users, and that's time. So we are going to create a countdown timer. And so what we're going to do first is define our remaining time. And since this is a very easy quiz game, I'm going to make the time limit be 3 minutes. So var remaining time is equal to 180 seconds to begin with. Then we are going to say var get timer is equal to set interval. We're going to say function if time remaining time is less than or equal to 0. So this is when your timer is done. And here we're going to put whatever we want to happen when the timer is done. And what I want to do is I want it to display, where the timer was. I want it to say time's up. And I also want it to force submit on our user. So what we're going to do is we are going to go here, and I'm actually going to make it at the very top of our thing. I'm going to say div id equals timer countdown. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the interval, clear interval, get timer, and then I'm going to say document.getElementById, timer countdown. Is that what I named it? Yep, timer countdown. Inner HTML should be equal to time up. And then I also want it to do the same function as submitting the test. So I am just going to copy that in there. Copy and paste that there. And then I'm going to write my else statement. So my else statement is going to actually display the remaining text, because if it's not 0 or less, that means that there's still time remaining and we need to display that. So I'm going to say var minutes is equal to time left divided by 60. But we also want to get the remaining amount of seconds. We don't want to display the minutes as a decimal. So instead I'm going to say math.floor, and that's going to round this down. So then what we're going to do is we're going to say var seconds is equal to remaining time minus the minutes times 60. Because the minutes times 60 is the minutes times 60 is the amount of seconds that this is already taking care of, you know? And then so this is how we will get the remainder of seconds. And so then what we're going to say is document.getElementById, timer countdown to display the text, .inner HTML is equal to minutes plus minutes plus seconds plus seconds. So we have that, and so this is all inside of the set interval function. And we want this function to repeat every 1 second, and so that would mean 1,000 milliseconds, and so we would say 1,000 here. And another thing we want it to do is we want it to subtract 1 every second, so it's going down by 1 every second. So let's see how this looks. So we are back here, and as you can see, my timer is already ticking away just in the time that I used to set up my screen recorder. So we're going to refresh, and you can see that it starts our timer. And so now we have a timer. And so depending on the amount of questions you have and stuff, you might change the amount of time the user gets and things like that. But overall, the concept is the same for how you can do that. But there are, of course, other ways. And what I'm going to do is I am actually going to show you what it looks like when the time is up. And so to do that, I am going to come back to this recording when the time's about to be up. So as you can see, we have about 13 seconds left here, and 10 seconds now, before it force submits the test. So 3, 2, 1, time up, and it force submitted it, and it tells you that your score is 100%. But if you see, they can still navigate through and they can still redo their quiz. So why don't we make it so that it disables the submit button after they have clicked submit and gotten their score, or after the time is up. So actually doing that is quite simple. All we have to say is document.getElementById submit dot disabled equals true. And we're going to say this after the time is up, but we're also going to say it after they submit so that they can't get multiple attempts unless they refresh and do it. And so that should disable the button. So as you can see, I'm back here. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to submit, and as you can see, it is disabled now. So that's it for this learning. Thank you for joining me. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and I'll really appreciate it if you leave your comments, feedback, and further suggestions for additional learnings below. I'll see you in the next video.